Welcome back to Boilers and Beyond. I'm Jordan Jones. Purdue took its first loss of Big Ten play, really letting one slip away at UCLA. How panicked should Purdue fans be? We're going to talk about a number of things today about Purdue basketball here as the Boilermakers sit at 17-2 and 7-1 in Big Ten play here after a loss to UCLA coming up on the halfway point of Big Ten play. If you don't already, be sure to follow the show on Twitter at BoilersBeyond. We'll be tweeting about it all. Come join the conversation there. You can always send in questions there on Twitter at BoilersBeyond. You can email the show, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com, and be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so that you don't miss a thing. We're here every week from now all the way through the end of the season and beyond. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. It's been a rough week for Purdue fans here, especially those who also root for the Bears. If you need a drink while listening to this, I get it. I recommend bourbon. But Purdue gets beat by UCLA 69-67, and it comes on the heels, since we've talked last, of Purdue beating Iowa, coming back in the second half, getting that win, and then Purdue pulling one out down the stretch against Southern Cal on Saturday. It wasn't a particularly impressive stretch from Purdue, and ultimately, the phrase that just comes to mind is that Purdue played with fire, and it got burnt. And we're going to start here with that UCLA game and what to make of that loss. I did do most of this episode prep before the UCLA game, so there are some things we're going to talk about that are a little bit more general, not as much reaction to that UCLA game. But, Purdue played with fire and got burnt. It's what happened. Purdue didn't play particularly well in any of these three games. Purdue didn't play all that well against Penn State, especially on the defensive end. Purdue was okay against Washington, but this has been bubbling up for a little bit here, and really, with these last three games, Purdue could have lost any of them. Now, it was a real borderline out-of-body shooting game for Iowa. The USC game got kind of weird with Braden Smith being dinged up, with some foul trouble for Purdue, but this time Purdue got burnt. It reminds you how hard it is to win on the road in the Big Ten. I'm not going to sit here and really dive into the travel aspect. It doesn't help anything, but UCLA was probably more impacted by that than Purdue was, and Purdue wasn't able to get it done. But when you go on the road in the Big Ten, you're going to lose games. It's what I just always keep coming back to, is that in this 20-game era, since the Big Ten moved to 20 league games for the 2018-19 season, the best a team has done in conference play is going 17-3. And that's really good. That was Michigan State last year. That was Purdue 2 years ago when it went to the Final Four. I don't know if there's been another to do that. It's really hard. It is a hard league to play in. And when you go on the road, you're going to lose games. Now, this is still a really good Purdue team. However, part of that is that you judge with a real strict scrutiny. This isn't a team where you're just going to give passes, because A, they wouldn't want that, and B, the expectations warrant very strict scrutiny. You should be holding this team to a really high standard, and that's where Purdue is here, and that's a big part of how you look at this game, because if you're being honest, look, the optimistic view here is that Purdue did a lot of bad things. Purdue really struggled, and it could have won the game. It really it shows you how good Purdue is when it's still in a position to win a game like this. But Donovan Dent just broke Purdue down in so many ways. Off the dribble, in ball screen action, he was awesome. That was the best performance that anyone has had against Purdue this year. Purdue's done pretty well against opposing stars. Like, you look at Bennett Sturts at Iowa, and he had a decent day. He was good. He wasn't that good. You look at the guys from Alabama. You look at J.T. Toppin, some of the better players that Purdue has seen. Purdue's done a really nice job on them. Donovan Dent exploded. And Purdue is a fine, it's a good defensive team, but it's not elite on that end. And you saw Purdue really struggle with switches, how it was hedging ball screens. For lack of a better way to phrase it, UCLA just kind of had Purdue in hell a little bit defensively. UCLA shot the ball well. It shot well from three. It got that action with Tyler Bilodeau a ton, and I don't know what Purdue's plan of attack was there. I'm not an expert enough in ball screen coverages to determine what Purdue was trying to do and evaluate that, but it's a 43% three-point shooter that was just wide open on too many occasions. That was a real problem, and UCLA hunted switches really effectively, executed really well. But even with that, even with Purdue having a pretty rough defensive performance, Purdue still should have won this game. Purdue was still in a position to win the game. Transitionally, Purdue was terrible. That was one of the more jarring things to see, was just how much Purdue struggled in transition. It had 8 shots blocked, and I don't know how many of those were Purdue trying to go to the rim in transition and getting them blocked, but probably 3 or 4. It wasn't nothing, and that was really, really jarring to see. That's something that you're not used to seeing, and it's a big part of it. Purdue had a rash of turnovers there at the end, had 2 or 3 at the end that were really untimely, led to the layup there to cut it from 3-1 at the end, but Purdue goes 7 of 27 from 3. You factor in all of these things, and Purdue still should have won. It is what it is. It happens sometimes. Now, is it a damaging loss? Absolutely, it is. It's not one that it's gonna be a quadrant 1 loss, but UCLA is by no means a shoe-in to make the NCAA tournament. UCLA has been more underwhelming than not so far this year, but there's a lot of basketball left to be played. That's a team that has some talent. That's a team that was in desperation mode, and ultimately Purdue just didn't make one more play to get it done. And Fletcher Loyer's certainly in a shooting slump right now. It's hot take time on Fletcher Loyer, everyone's favorite time. It happens. If you can find a really high volume 3-point shooter who doesn't go through slumps, congratulations. You got to look really hard. There aren't many of them. I know someone's going to light me up for making this comparison, but nobody remembers the way Carson Edwards shot leading into the NCAA tournament back in 2019. It was really bad. He was really, really struggling down the stretch that season, but he gets hot in the NCAA tournament, and that's how everyone remembers him. 40% three-point shooters don't get there by going 2 for 5 every night. The same way that scratch golfers don't shoot even par every single time out. That's not how it works. There are ebbs and flows to things. When you are a 40% three-point shooter, some nights you're going to be really hot, some nights you're not. It just happens. And right now he's going through it. There is a massive body of work to indicate that he's going to be just fine here. But I think the important thing, it's not like he's hurting Purdue with decision-making or these critical mistakes. His shots just aren't going in. And there's not much you can do about it other than just get through it and get to the other side of it. He's going to be all right. Purdue's going to be all right with it. I had this segment ready to go before this game, and it's really interesting because In the USC game, in the Iowa game, there's been a lot of hand-wringing about Trey Kaufman-Renn, but I think Oscar Clough deserves some real flowers as well, because a massive part of Purdue not pulling away from Iowa and a massive part of Purdue struggling against USC was that Oscar Clough was in foul trouble in those games, was that he wasn't on the floor. You can make a really good argument at this point in time that he's Purdue's second most important player behind Braden Smith. He's really, really valuable out there. And I would love to see, I don't know where I would access something like this, but a season-long plus-minus, because, man, he has been, anecdotally, he has been significantly positive in plus-minus, more so than some of his teammates even. He's been the absolute perfect piece for this team. And I know Brian Newbert over at Gold and Black had an article about that the other day, and he's spot on. This is getting very reminiscent of Lance Jones a couple years ago when he brought everything tangibly and intangibly that team needed, brought some real enthusiasm but also maturity, some competitive fire to that team, and obviously he became another ball handler. He became another shooter and became everything Purdue needed, that culminated in him hitting a massive 3 against Tennessee to help put Purdue in the Final Four. And right now, Oscar Clough is doing that same thing. He's rebounding at a really high level. Purdue is rebounding at a really high level, especially with him on the floor. The rebounding splits with him on and off have to be fairly significant. He's been a great rebounder. He's shooting over 70% from the field. At least in that UCLA game, the Peacock graphic said he had the best shooting percentage in the country. He does so on fairly low volume. It's not like he's taking a ton of shots. It's not like a ton of stuff is necessarily designed for him. He's not getting plays run for him all that much. This is, for the most part, Oscar Clough taking advantage of opportunities, of dump-offs, of some post-ups for sure, and he does a really nice job of getting good position on his post-ups, but he's been everything Purdue could have wanted. Purdue is better because of him significantly. He's been really nice defensively for the most part. What gets interesting is that I do think some of Oscar Clough's success has contributed to Trey Kaufman-Renn maybe not putting together the statistical profile that we expected this season. Trey Kaufman-Renn's points per game are down. His field goal attempts are down. His shooting percentage is down. Excuse me there. He's been really effective at times, and he's gone through slumps at times. I don't know that playing the 4 is his most natural position. Last season, when he was at his best, he was Purdue's big guy. Now, was Caleb Furst taller? Yes, but Purdue was using Trey Kaufman-Renn as its post-up destination player. Right now, he's getting some of those, but so is Oscar Clough. Daniel Jacobson's in the game. He gets post-ups now and then as well. Last year, that was almost exclusively Trey Kaufman-Renn, and that's a big deal. That's a big difference. He's getting to the free throw line way less because he's playing a little bit further out. You see it on his push shots, where he is taking those from a few feet farther away from the basket, and it hasn't been great for his efficiency numbers. It hasn't been great for his field goal percentage. You think, and I do think some of that is contributing to frustration. You see it. You saw it in the Iowa game where he picked up a second foul, and there's a little skirmish, so to speak, late in the first half. And I think back to the Memphis game down in the Bahamas when he got teed up there late in the first half. That was his third. And, you know, I do think there's some frustration boiling up there. He's a really passionate player. He always has been. Where that gets interesting, though, is that Purdue's team is better because Oscar Clough is there. And even if it hasn't had the best effect on Trey Kaufman-Renn, I do think it's made Purdue better. This is better than what Purdue had last year, even if Trey Kaufman-Renn's numbers aren't the same. He had a nice day against UCLA. I think being controlled but being aggressive is a nice fine line that he needs to walk. Easier said than done, mind you. Much easier said than done. But this is something that Purdue's got to continue to figure out. It's important. He is too good of a player. He's too good of a scorer to stick in this rut a little bit. And the same deal with Fletcher Loyer. I think both these guys can get out of it. I am curious, in that front court especially, though. We saw a little glimpse of it in that USC game where Jack Benter and Trey Kaufman-Renn were out there together when Daniel Jacobson was getting worn out from some extended minutes. I do wonder if you see that at times. Jack Benter's been really, really good. Trey Kaufman-Renn can play that 5 position. Now, you're small. You're compromised from a rebounding perspective. But Daniel Jacobson certainly had his ups and downs here as a freshman. I don't want to say he's hitting a freshman wall necessarily, but there have been ups and downs for him. He's still figuring it out. It's not all coming super naturally at this point, which is normal for freshmen in their first season. I am curious to see if Purdue tries to go with a lineup like that against a smaller team. Maybe like Indiana, when Purdue plays Indiana, or someone else who's a little bit smaller. But Jack Benter, giving him his flowers here, what a come on he's had. He just does so many winning things for Purdue. He is. It's so obvious that he's a coach's son. It's clear as day because you look at that stretch at USC. He knocks down a 3. He takes a charge. He gets a steal. Great laser of a pass into Trey Kaufman-Renn for a dunk. You look at the UCLA game where he checks into the game, has a great assist out of penetration, and then has a nice little penetration floater. He takes a charge later on. He's been really, really good. I don't know if he's ever going to be in a starring role at Purdue where he's one of the 2 or 3 best players on the team, but he adds a ton of value. He's not a 4 naturally. That's not his natural position, but he's embraced it and is competing at that spot really, really well. He is fighting his butt off out there, and it's been really effective. That's been a great look for Purdue. I think there's a ton to be optimistic about with Jack Benter in the future, and the bench is really playing well right now. Ja'Kari Harris is doing some good things. He hasn't shot the ball well this year, 33% from 3, but he's doing some good things moving the basketball. He's not afraid to penetrate, plays good defense. Omer Meyer's starting to shoot a little bit better. Wonder if he's starting to get a little more comfortable here. Now that we're about 20 games into his college career, I wonder if that comfort level is really starting to increase. It's been really solid. Purdue's bench has been really good for it. It was really good out on the West Coast, and if you can bring that back with you, that's a major, major positive. And I did, kind of the last thing here, I wanted to highlight Braden Smith as a scorer. So much of the attention is on him and the NCAA assist record, and it should be. That's a really big deal. Braden Smith has the chance to make history, break a record that's been sitting for over 30 years, break a record that's probably going to be really difficult to break. And he has the chance to leave Purdue with an NCAA record. There aren't many guys who have done that. But you've seen him recently go full alpha mode and go score the ball to win Purdue games. That second half against Iowa, the first half against Southern Cal. There were a couple flashes where I thought he was going to do it against UCLA. I don't want to sit here and speculate on injuries. He was obviously good enough to play, was listed as questionable on the injury report after getting dinged up against USC. You got to get him healthy. But there aren't guys in the country that can score and facilitate the way he does. This is unicorn stuff. This is unheard of. There are freshmen across the country that are awesome. Cameron Boozer, AJ DeBansa, the kid at Kansas that doesn't really get to play much because he's been hurt. There are great players. JT Toppin, Jefferson at Iowa State. Great players across the country. But if you're having a National Player of the Year conversation and it doesn't include Braden Smith, you're fooling yourself. He is unbelievable. There are going to be guys in this group that are better NBA players. There are going to be guys who get drafted higher, who get better shoe deals. I don't care about that stuff. When you look at college basketball and who impacts the sport as much as anyone, hard to make an argument for guys above Braden Smith. Purdue needs him to be 100% healthy, good to go. But, man, really, really good stuff from him. And just appreciate what type of a player Purdue has in him, because it's pretty uncommon. Purdue's going to be okay in all of this. It is. It's not ideal to lose a game like that, a game where you thought you had it in the bag maybe. Purdue was up 12 in the first half, up 6 with a minute and a half to go. That part isn't ideal. That part's not great. But everything is still on the table here. Purdue played really well after that Iowa State loss for a few weeks. Now, can this channel you to get back and be a little bit cleaner, be a little bit crisper? If so, really no harm, no foul here, because it doesn't impact too hard anything Purdue wants to do here this year. It's 2026. The new year is here. It's another year where, away from the podcast, I get to help Indiana residents with their insurance program. As an Indiana Farm Bureau insurance agent, I'm here to make sure that all of your insurance coverages are exactly where they need to be. From home and auto to life and business insurance, I can do it all. Give me a call, 317-846-5861. Email me, jordan.jones@infarmbureau.com. Let's make sure you are all set here for the year to come. Purdue doesn't exactly get a easy one to reset its feet, though, after the loss to UCLA. It comes home for Illinois on Saturday. Coming home from the West Coast is never easy. I know Purdue was staying out there on Tuesday night after the game, flying home on Wednesday. They assume they're back by now. It's Wednesday night as I record this. Coming home isn't easy from that. You think back to last year when Purdue came home from the West Coast, got a nice lead against Ohio State, and then really faded down the stretch and lost that game. I don't remember if that was an overtime game or not, but a game that Purdue had no business losing, it lost. If you want to believe that the travel is a complete nothing burger, you can go ahead. I don't agree with you. I know the coaches don't agree with you. Whatever. Anytime I tweet about it, I get people very angry in my mentions. But there's something there. You get Illinois, though. And Illinois really is the Big Ten's box of chocolates, because you don't know what you're going to get with Illinois basketball. It is a wildly successful program that is just kind of built on chaos a little bit. But Illinois is good. It's riding a pretty nice win streak here. Trying to count quickly. 7 games maybe. 7-game win streak, I think. Going back to its loss at Nebraska, or at home against Nebraska early on in Big Ten play. It's a good team. It's a really good team. Obviously very international. A lot of European guys on this year's team. Some have been around for a little bit, some haven't. But big blow for Illinois this week. Kylan Boswell, the point guard, is out. Real veteran guy. He played against Purdue a couple years ago in that big-time game at Gainbridge Fieldhouse when he was at Arizona. Played at Illinois last year. He's going to miss this one. It's a big absence because he's Illinois' best defender. He would have guarded Braden Smith. He's their floor general. He's their veteran point guard. But Illinois still has a lot of talent. It really does. It's a really good group. Keaton Wagler has been really nice as a true freshman here. He's a one-and-done type. We'll see if he is or not, but he certainly has the ability to be in that conversation. The big deal here that I'm really going to be watching, and it bears a little bit more importance after watching Tyler Bilodeau do what he did to Purdue, is that Illinois can go 5 out. You look at Illinois' lineup, and you have guys that are all three-point shooters. The Avicic, Tomislav Avicic can step out and shoot. So can his brothers, Zvonimir. David Markovic is pretty big. He can step out and shoot. Wagler's a wing guy who can really shoot it. That's a big deal. That's something Purdue's got to be able to guard. Humrickhouse, Jake Davis, a couple of Indiana guys that can really shoot it. That's Purdue's challenge here. You don't want this to be a first to 90 wins type of game because that's a pain. But these teams are fairly similar in the sense that they're both really efficient on offense, very containment based on defense. It's just two very, very, very different ways of going about program building and program management, but they're both really effective. Illinois has been pretty good under Brad Underwood. It really has been. That's not going to be an easy game against Purdue here, or an easy game for Purdue here. Purdue's got to have it. There's no other way of putting it. If you want to win the Big Ten, you got to take care of business at home. Right now, it's a 5-team race in the Big Ten. You have Purdue, you have Michigan, Michigan State, Illinois, and Nebraska. You look at the projections on KenPom, you've got 2 teams at 16-4, 3 teams at 15-5, no one else better than 11-9. That's just where the Big Ten is this year. So, you got to take care of business at home. That's what you got to do. Purdue has an advantageous schedule. It gets Illinois, Michigan, Michigan State only once at home. It gets Nebraska just once, goes to Pinnacle Bank. That's an advantage for Purdue. That's a real advantage for Purdue. This is a big one on Saturday to do that. And then as you look a little bit deeper, Purdue does control its destiny in the Big Ten. And to a certain degree, I think Purdue controls its own destiny as far as NCAA tournament seeding goes. The 1 seed in the Midwest is clearly Purdue's dream route. Nothing is off the table there. Iowa State has picked up a couple of losses. Michigan looks mortal. I mean, it's still really good. It's still number 1 in KenPom, but I don't know if it's quite as all-time historic as maybe it looked early on. We'll see. Time will tell, but if Purdue can beat Michigan, Purdue just stacks wins. Boy, is Iowa State going to do that? I don't know. Iowa State's really good, but Purdue can control what Purdue can control. It has everything ahead of it here. It's never easy. It's a long season. We are in the season, and with the expectations comes a lot of angst, a lot of emotion. You certainly see it after this loss, and as I said, Purdue fans have had a week here, especially if you're a Bears fan like myself. Been a week, so I get the frustration, I get the angst. I think Purdue's going to be okay here. This is a really proven group. This is a group that has played a ton of basketball. This is a group that has won a couple Big Ten championships, has made a national championship game, has made another Sweet 16, and really had Houston in a bind. So Purdue's going to be okay. I think Purdue is going to be all right through all of this. It wasn't an ideal outcome, but we're going to learn a lot more here about Purdue coming up and how it responds. That's about all I have here for today. Next week, We're going to talk about the football transfer portal, look at what Barry Odom's brought in here. Really looking at, has this been a positive? Has this been a negative for Purdue? We'll look at what's come in, what's gone out. Of course, we'll talk about the Illinois game. Big week ahead next week with a pair of road games. So we'll be recording that. Be safe, everybody. Some weather, some real cold coming through the Midwest. Be safe out there if you're heading up to Mackey Arena on Saturday. Safe travels. It should be a really good atmosphere there. We will talk to you early next week. All things Purdue sports. Send me questions. Do it on Twitter. Do it over email, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. Subscribe so you don't miss that next episode. And until then, guys, take care.